All right, good day, everyone. It's a very special episode today. I have with me Miss Roa, the CEO and founder of Pic-A-Talk. Thanks for joining me today, Yuma. I have to say that you're an inspiration to me on so many levels. The first is that you're a CEO and founder of a tech startup at such a young age. I don't know your exact age, but I know that you graduated from university in 2019, and now 2 years later, you're leading your own company to awards in startup competition. So for those of you that don't know, Pic-A-Talk actually placed in the final three for the Draper's Startup House Pitch Perfect competition. Second reason why I'm so inspired by you is your company Pic-A-Talk has tremendous potential um, and potential value for so many people with language disabilities, young and old alike. And finally, you've been able to combine a worthy cause with artificial intelligence to empower more people and make this solution available to as many people as possible. So, just to give everyone that's listening some additional context, uh, Pic-A-Talk is an app that allows verbal communication for not verbal communication, but it allows communication for verbally communication challenged individuals, like children especially. It allows them to express themselves using pictures and AI. It's powered by AI and it's done through your smartphone. And Pic-A-Talk allows users to communicate freely using the pictures and sentences instructed by the app. I think the most practical and effective application of Pic-A-Talk is for kids that need special education due to communication disabilities. So it's absolutely inspiring, and I think I'm not doing the app or the company enough justice. I just know that it really bridges the gap between people and kids that have communication challenges to be able to communicate with those of us that are blessed with okay verbal communication skills through pictures and through artificial intelligence. And I just know that it's really, really inspiring. So Yuma, and it's pronounced, for those of you that are listening, it's pronounced Yuma, not Uma, like Uma Thurman. So Yuma, my first question for you is, I know Pic-A-Talk started out as a school project based on what I was able to read on your website. What was the thought process or experience around building this out into a true tech startup company?
Okay, so back in college, I think it was 2017, I got my first ever major subject. And we were asked to kind of find a pain that we would like to solve. And as someone who is pretty much content with her life, it was pretty challenging for me to figure out a project to make. So my mom actually told me that why not create a project that's based on my autistic sister who's actually nonverbal, who can't really communicate with us. That was the key pain point in our family. We aren't able to properly communicate with her. We can't really understand her. So she usually throws temper tantrums. So that's what happened. I based it off of how she would communicate with us at that time. She would Google images, she would search it on YouTube in case there were different flavors of food that she wanted. So yeah, and then she would pause a video based on the flavor of the food that she wants, and then she would just show it to us. So that was the basis of Pic-A-Talk. And then I presented it to class, and then my teacher actually really liked my idea. And then he encouraged me to join this hackathon that was being held at school. It was called IDEA Hack. It was held in the IDEA Incubation Hub in MSUIIT. So yeah, that was my first ever hackathon. And at first, I thought that hackathon meant that we were supposed to hack something. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was really nervous. And I didn't have a team at the time. The project was individual, so I actually teamed up with two of the smartest people in my class. And lucky for me, they were like, okay, yeah, sure, we'd like to join. So yeah, shout out to Shiltil and Earl. they were they joined team, and at the end of the hackathon, we actually were one of the top three. We didn't win, but we were one of the top three, so it was really great.
Yeah, for sure. So you were what age when you first presented the project to your teacher when it was still an individual project?
How old was I? Wait, that was 2017. This is 2021. How many? That was four
So
years ago. So I
four
think it was
years
20
ago.
years old. Yeah, I think it was 20
How?
years old.
20 years old.
20 years
Wow.
old. Yeah.
That's that's amazing. So it I think most people like the advice that you would get from most successful business leaders would be to find a problem and create a solution for that problem. And I think that's a perfect your situation is a perfect example. Not only because there's a problem, but at the same time, it's a problem that's close to your heart, right? Like it really solves something that is that impacts someone that you love very much. And so yeah, I can see how you'd be extremely motivated to make sure that this project becomes a success. So when you joined the hackathon, oh, and by the way, you're taking a computer science, right? In college
Yeah.
in Mindanao at this time. Is
Yeah.
that right? Yeah, yeah. So, so the hackathon was also in Mindanao, or did they have to fly you over to Manila to join the competition?
Oh, no, it was at our school in MSU IIT. There's an incubation hub there called IDEA. So the
Okay.
hackathon was held in that incubation hub. That was my first time to join a hackathon, and it was also the first time I even heard about startup and what it's all about.
Awesome. And then, so the two other people that you got from your class, these are still part of the company to this day.
Only one. The other one already
Oh,
left us.
okay. Okay. Well, good luck to that person. I mean, at least you were able to keep one of the founding members, right?
Yeah.
So from that, so congratulations, and I think that was probably your first ever win. I mean, top three is still a win, considering how these hackathons usually go. So what happened next from winning a hackathon? I assume, I imagine that this gave you validation that this idea is solid and that it can really blossom into something more. Could you describe for us in detail what were the next few steps or chapters in that story?
Yeah, I think it definitely gave me some validation. Like I didn't expect that would be like during the hackathon, they didn't call the top three, they only called the first place. But one of the judges actually came to me and told me that I was actually in the top three. And then he was really hoping that I would win. So I think that really gave me the confidence boost that, oh, so people actually really need this app. I thought it was just my sister. And then, so after that, I continued with my project solo. Since in class it was an individual project, so I did it myself. At the time, it didn't have AI. It was just the pictures and then the words and then producing it into speech output. And I realized that there are already existing applications that do this outside of the Philippines. So yeah, I saw that and then I kind of figured out how to make it improved because at the moment what it does is it requires the user to create a sentence by themselves. So I thought that, well, these people can't really communicate. How are they supposed to know how to make a sentence? So that's when I had the idea of using AI to kind of automate the sentence creation. And although at the time I didn't integrate that into it, so I added the AI aspect when I was doing my thesis. Actually, Pic-A-Talk became like a 5-in-1 project in school. So after the first prototype, the next subjects we were put into teams, and then yeah, so I had like a team, and they also wanted to do Pic-A-Talk. So I was pretty much done with the first part. So we figured, okay, let's make something that includes teachers in it. So we kind of made it like a school application for the special education. And then afterwards, I that's when I did my thesis alone. And I didn't really join any start. Actually, wait. Oh, wait. When I was an intern at Innovue Solutions, they they had the general manager had an extra ticket for the startup weekend in CDO, and no one in the office wanted to go, and I really wanted to go. So uh, I put up a lot of courage and then asked him if I could go to this startup weekend, and he was really happy that I wanted to attend. So yeah, so I attended that, still pitched Pic-A-Talk, and then we placed fourth. And afterwards, CDO Bytes was one of the sponsors, I think. CDO Bytes was there. They're an incubation hub in USTP here in CDO. And they actually told all the startups that were in the program that they would be incubated in CDO Bytes. So that was the that was when we were incubated in CDO Bytes. So I didn't get incubated in my own school. I got incubated in another school in a different city, but that was fine. So afterwards, uh, yeah, I think it was kind of difficult for me to kind of travel between two cities while I was in school. I was studying in Iligan, and my incubation hub was in CDO. And some of my teammates from the startup weekend were also from CDO. So it was kind of difficult to um, meet up with the team and work together with the team, considering that some of them had day jobs, and I was still in school. So the development of Pic-A-Talk was pretty much stopped at that point. Like it wasn't
Oh,
pretty much stopped, it was like it was moving very slow. And
slow down considerably.
yeah, it was slowed down. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I had no idea how to run a team at the time. Yeah,
Oh,
so that was pretty
that's
hard.
I can imagine. I mean, at such a young age, they don't usually teach you how to run a team in college, right? Like they have their own preset curriculum that they have to go through. That's pretty
Yeah,
much it. Yeah. So
yeah.
couple of things that I wanted to break down for our audience. So so for the app itself, right? Like so, it started out where the users need to encode pictures, right? And then when you incorporated the AI, it now assumes what the user is trying to say. Like they would like try to figure out on its own what the sentence is, and then based on the pictures that were picked out, and translate that into speech for the one person who will receive the message. Did
Yep.
that capture? Okay, cool. That's amazing. Um, and then the other thing was, so when you were an intern in Innoview, that ticket that they gave you was for you to pitch um, Pic-A-Talk in CDO.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, and you were still an intern and a student at the same time.
yeah.
Wow, that's
No,
pretty cool.
it was a really tough decision for me at the time, because it was a startup weekend, so it was gonna happen over the weekend. And usually by the weekend, I would go home to Iligan City, but then it was a really huge opportunity. So like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna sacrifice this weekend to go home and just attend this startup weekend. And I haven't regretted it since. It was really a turning point, considering that we got incubated by CDO Bytes after the event, and I got to meet new people, and I was actually able to validate the application even more at the time, even though the production was slowed down.
Yeah, I imagine there's so many things that as a student, as an intern, and then as a tech startup, there's so many competing priorities, or at least competing things that are competing for your attention, right? What was the experience like being incubated for the first time? Like for those of us that may not have heard of that term before, not familiar with how incubation works, what happens when you get incubated? It's a good thing, right? Like you can consider it like a reward or a prize for it is the price for when you pitched your idea, your company, and then what's that like? Like, what are the benefits? What's the experience like? What did it do for the company going forward?
Okay, so being incubated by CDO Bytes was great, but also in the sense that we weren't able to enjoy it for the first 6 months. So what they offered for the first 6 months is that we have our own office space in the incubation hub, and also a lot of programs they would provide in order to kind of coach us into how to um, build our startup. So for the first 6 months, the incubation office space was free, but we weren't able to enjoy that because I was studying in Iligan City. So
Oh,
we were only there for like 3 times. Yeah. So we weren't able to enjoy that. And afterwards, we would have to pay. So luckily, there was a pandemic, so we don't really have to pay for that anymore. We were all forced to go digital. So, but at the time, we no
luckily
one
there's a
goes digital.
pandemic. Classic. Okay.
Yeah, but before the pandemic, no one actually went digital before the pandemic, right? Like
Right.
the
Yeah.
people would be able to work online, or on people who have online jobs, people who were freelance workers.
Yeah.
So
It was
during the time,
unthinkable that people could work at home, people could collaborate, especially in large scale teams, right? Like it was
yeah,
unthinkable that you can stay at home and everyone wants you to go to the office, right? And then the pandemic happened, nobody goes to the office anymore. So yeah, I
yeah,
get what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah. So during that time, that's what slowed down production. We didn't actually go digital. I was just kind of waiting for people to go to the office to meet and all that, and that's when it died, sort of.
Did it
Yeah.
ever
So
cross your
other,
mind to stop school and just really focus on the startup, or
oh, I can't do that.
you can't?
No, I
Why
can't.
not?
I just
It-
thought that, well, my mom really wants me to finish school, and I also wanted to finish school as well. And I was already so far into school. Like
yeah.
I was already doing my thesis, and then I can't just give up and stop it. So yeah,
So it
I
was
thought that,
a commitment you made to yourself, to your mom, and you've already invested so much that you just wanted to get it done. Gotcha.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So also other things that were provided by CDO Bytes that we were able to enjoy was the programs that they have set. Like they have the fire starter programs wherein they have mentors to teach certain subjects that applies to startups like financials, taxes, and how to incorporate your startup and all of that stuff. They really provided that, and it was all for free for incubatees like us. And afterwards, we had a demo day wherein we would present our startups to a group of people. That happened here in CDO in Limkit Kai Mall. Yeah, so there are a few people caught who we who caught our attention, and then kind of took a brochure and asked us to contact them when the app was already up. So yeah, and there were also competitions that CDO Bytes would encourage us to join, which was great. I was able to join one. It was called Codathon X in back in 2019, which we were able to win finally. We were able
Wow.
to win that.
Congrats.
Yeah, and the prize was we got to go to Bali and Singapore to join the
Oh,
Gold Nomad Boot Camp. Yeah.
amazing. Okay, awesome. Um, so it seems like there's a lot of value to really being able to join an incubation program like the one that you got with CDO Bytes, right? So they sponsor office space if you need it. They give you coaching, like mentorship, most likely, right? They like maybe you can probably learn from more experienced startup leaders and entrepreneurs. And it sounds like they also provide you with training and give you exposure to competition. So, would you say that I assume that you would recommend every startup to be part of an incubation program? Would that be accurate? Um,
Yes, definitely.
yeah. So, do
Because
you have to? Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry,
oh
I
yeah, sorry.
interrupted.
I think that incubation programs really support startups, especially when you're pretty much new and you don't really know what to do next. They can provide you with an idea on what to do and connect you with the people who can really help, like mentors or even maybe potential investors. They could connect you with those. So yeah,
Yeah.
I would definitely suggest.
That's an amazing advantage for someone who especially is doing this for the first time, right? If I were to create a startup of my own and then get a chance to win in a competition, is there a way for me to join an incubation program outside of winning or at least placing in the top 3 or 4 or 5 in these startup competitions?
Yeah, I think you can still sign up for them. Yeah, there are incubation programs that are accepting incubatees like CDO Bytes. I think they opened enrollment last year. So yeah, that was their first virtual enrollment for the incubatees. So yeah, you can still join. It doesn't really mean that it doesn't really need you to have to attend a competition and win.
But
Although
does
I'm not
that?
sure if it works. if
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm not sure if
Um,
the office space would still be free for that. Yeah, for us since we won, I think they offered the office space for free.
I've heard that some incubation programs would require you to give a piece of your company to them, like in the form of equity, like they would take a percentage of your entire company. Was that the case for Pic-A-Talk, or you still have like 100% ownership of your program?
Currently, we still have 100%, but since we're not generating any revenue yet, but yeah, I think so. I think that's the case, considering how much they actually, how much support they actually give you, how much programs you are exposed to. Your
Right.
your startup is really they're really helping your startup grow. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's pretty much fair.
I think the flip side to that is like if you were to gain all of those knowledge, connections, like learn all of that on your own, it would take you years and years. So it kind of makes sense to trade some of your equity for accelerating your company by years, by light years, maybe even, just because there's so much that is already readily available for you through these incubation programs. Yeah, cool. Thank you for sharing your experience with CDO Bytes. My next question for you. So, were there any mental or emotional or even societal roadblocks that you had to overcome to be able to make the decision to officially, like after you graduated or even before you graduated, to officially turn your what started out as a school project into like a tech startup company?
Yeah, there were a lot. So mostly financially. But So right now, I'm still working as a web developer at the same place where I interned. Yeah, so I'm still working full time. I can't really say that I can't really pursue the Pic-A-Talk startup for full time because I also have to work in order to sustain myself and my family. The same goes for my teammates. We all have our day jobs as well. So what we do is we mostly work at night. We would have a meeting and have like a peer programming kind of setup. So since we're all digital now, so that's pretty easy. So yeah, most of the roadblocks would be, I'd say, financial because we aren't able to commit ourselves 100% to the startup due to the fact that we also have to sustain ourselves because in a startup you don't usually earn profit for the first 18 months usually. So, yeah, that's a huge risk if you're going into it and you don't really have capital, you don't really have anything that would help you, that would sustain you without earning any money. So, yeah, that's why right now we're currently looking for investors or maybe partners in order to help us in this area so that we can do it 100%. Another thing is, well, emotionally and uh, yeah, mostly emotionally because during a pandemic, I know I said luckily earlier, but the pandemic still sucks.
Yeah.
um, because of the fact that you can't really go out and you're just stuck at home. It kind of takes a toll on you mentally. So yeah, that really hit me a lot last year, and it kind of again slowed down production because the leader was pretty much down. She's not motivated, she's not inspired, like stuff like that. And I was able to bounce back luckily this during this year. By the start of this year I was able to bounce back. So yeah.
What helped you bounce back, right? Was it just the turn of the new year, or like were there some things that you did that helped you bounce back? Were there people that contributed to helping you regain your momentum, your mojo, or whatever it is, right? Like how did you do it? And like for those that are listening that are maybe in a similar situation, what would you advise them?
Okay, so the main reason for me being down at the time was because there wasn't really much to do on the startup side. I mean, like there weren't that many programs for us to join, and I kind of forgot of the things that I needed to do. So yeah, I was pretty much in a state of not knowing what to do next. So in being in that state kind of brought me down and felt like I was pretty useless at the time. So this is gonna be funny, but when the K-drama startup came out, it was actually kind of an inspiration for me because
I saw that on your
uh,
Facebook profile.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So when it came out, I didn't see the trailer before, but I saw it on Netflix. It was called Startup, so I was like, oh, maybe I could watch this. Maybe I could relate to it. And when I watched it, I could really relate to it. It was literally like kind of how we. It was kind of like our story, so that was really great. Like for Namdo-san, they're a group of developers who has been a startup for years but still hasn't gotten investors. They still haven't moved forward from where they were. Kind of the same for me and my team since we were developers and we've been a startup for like a few years now. We've been incubated in CDO Bytes for a few years and we haven't really moved forward yet. So seeing that on Netflix or on TV or wherever you're watching it, it kind of gives you hope that you can get through this. And also, it kind of pointed out the mistakes that they were making, like where they were lacking. So, in that sense, I got to figure out that where I was lacking as a CEO, where I was lacking in terms of leading this our startup, and what are the next steps that we needed to take, and how to it was pretty much laid out like how to get investors, like where to go, what to do next. And yeah, it really gave us a bigger picture of the next steps, because mostly I've been doing this blindfolded. So yeah, it was really great.
You got all of that off the startup uh, K-pop drama, or what? I mean, I don't know what the right term is. Korean drama.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Although I
amazing.
hate the ending, but I hated the ending. But yeah, I still got to learn a lot from the K drama, due to the fact, if it was focused more on the startup side, on the business side, it would have been great. But then they focused on the love story. That that was terrible. Terrible decision on the writer. And Jipyong pa rin.
You know, I'm not really a big fan of Korean pop culture, but I did like. After this, I'm gonna watch the startup series as well, um, just to be able to relate to all of the things that you've shared. Maybe I'll hate the love story part as well. I think I might.
Yeah, only watch until episode 10. Just kidding. You can finish it if you want.
I'll see. I'll make an assessment after episode 9 or at episode 10. I did watch a Taiwan class though. Was it Taiwan class? I really liked it. It's pretty
Ah,
good.
Itaewon Class. Yes, I also like that
Uh,
one.
do you like it better than the Startup series?
Um, I think they're the same.
Same.
I know. I think Itaewon Class is better in terms of story wise. Startup just kind of failed at the ending part. I really didn't
Yeah.
like the story part.
Yeah, I enjoyed the Taiwan class all throughout from the beginning to the end. And then the love story part wasn't so heavy either. It was
Yeah,
really
yeah, I agree. Yeah,
it was like a
it was
side
more on the business one.
yeah, it
Yeah,
was
that
more of
was
a
a
side
great.
dish. Yeah.
It was a great thing because he started off as a convict and then he became a CEO. And
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
very
yeah.
inspired. Yes, one of the dramas that also inspired me
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah. He became a convict, but at the same time, even as a convict, he made some really smart decisions, right? Like
Yeah,
which didn't pay off until later. So he made decisions that were really good, even as he was going through some difficult times, and then those decisions eventually helped him kind of overcome some of the more difficult times in the story. I just hated his haircut, honestly. His haircut sucks the most.
oh, he looks good.
Like the I don't know. It looked like the V shape thing with the I don't know.
Oh yeah, I think it depends on who wears the haircut.
Yeah,
If it
yeah,
would
yeah.
look good. But since he's a good looking guy, he would also look good in that haircut.
I guess. Yeah, he does look good. He looks good. I think he would look even better if his haircut was different.
Oh yeah, yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I was able to relate with startup more than Itaewon Class is because startup is a tech startup. It was revolving around that industry, and Itaewon Class was more on the food industry.
Restaurant.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, I think that's the difference. But story wise, Itaewon Class was better.
Yeah. I'll watch Startup and then we can compare notes and which one's better in what aspects and all that. Yeah. So I think just going back to what you were saying, right? The reason I actually started this podcast was that the worst feeling ever is not knowing where to start, right? Like you want it so bad, you want to change your life so badly, you hate your situation, but it's very difficult if you don't know what to do. Like you want to take action, every fiber of your being wants to do something, but even if you want to do something so bad, if you don't know what it is, then it gets really frustrating, right? And you just have to keep going and going and doing the same thing over and over again. And that's really the point of this podcast. Um, so apart from watching Startup, what's and maybe for those that are in a different situation where it's not a startup environment, it's something else, maybe something related to school or something related to making a decision in their lives, to do something, but they're not sure what to do. What advice would you give the listeners that are in that situation, like in a more general sense, right?
For me, I would definitely say that you should give yourselves a break. Not everyone knows what they're going to do next. Not everyone knows what's going to happen in the future. So I would say give yourselves a break. Like maybe if you're so frustrated or stressed out, you could like step away from what's stressing you out, step away from school for a while, not forever, just maybe for a few hours and watch your favorite movie, or maybe go out and, well, not go out a lot because of the pandemic, but maybe talk to some friends and just get your mind off of it for a while, because sometimes I'm going to relate this with coding, but sometimes when like there's like a bug in my code and I can't seem to solve it, what really helps is that if I would just, step away from my computer and then maybe take a nap or two, and then by by the time I wake up and then check my code again, I can see that little bug that's been there, and then I get to solve it. So yeah, sometimes it just you just need to clear your mind in order for you to solve something that seems unsolvable at the time. And also, if you need help, you can just always ask for help from the people around you. Like, yeah, like coding again. Sometimes you can't see the problem, but maybe you need a second opinion on how to solve it, you know? So, yeah, kind of like that. Oh my God, I'm relating everything to coding.
No, I mean
Those,
it makes sense, honestly, and that's really powerful stuff to kind of validates what I do sometimes as well. So for me, it's very similar. Sometimes you just need to take a step back and really look at the bigger picture, right? Sometimes you're so zoomed in on a piece of the problem, and then you're stuck. And unless you actually, step back and look at the full picture, sometimes it's very hard to figure out what to do next, right? And yeah, definitely having fun, just finding a distraction, just doing something that you love for a change is a good way to re-energize yourself and re-energize your inspiration tank, so to speak. Um, yeah, so thank you for sharing that. Uh, let's see. Just going back to Pic-A-Talk and how you mentioned earlier that you're having some trouble like finding investors. Do you think that would you say that your geographical location, because you're currently in Mindanao, if I'm not mistaken, plays a factor in the difficulty of finding investors? Or is it something that's uh, not even relevant? Does that make sense?
currently, I don't think it's relevant considering, hey, I got to join the Draper University
Yeah.
entrepreneurship program that was held in the USA. So I just had to wake up every 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. to join the lectures. So no, I don't think geography has anything to do with us not getting investments. I think it's more of investors know when you're ready to have to get an investment. Investors know that they can tell if you exactly know what to do next, especially since you're talking about money. Of course, they're going to be pretty strict about that. So yeah, I think a huge factor would be me not knowing exactly what to do next. Also, I think more of of course, we validated the product itself, like if it is needed. But considering that we are in the kind of the healthcare industry, because our product is for mostly nonverbal autistic kids, the neurodivergent community. It kind of needs to be proven that it actually helps these people's lives. It actually helps improve their lives. So yeah, we have to conduct these like social experiments to kind of prove that our application is helping other people's lives being improved. And at the same time, they kind of question why I am fit to lead this company, because I'm a computer science graduate who has a nonverbal autistic sister, and it's not really a qualification to kind of lead the design of this application. We need to have a sort of expert on the special needs field on this, like maybe a speech language pathologist or maybe a special education teacher to be one of our members during the development in order to kind of prove to them that our team is capable. But right now, we don't really have that member. What we've been doing is that we've been reaching out to parents and siblings and teachers and speech language pathologists that take care and help and nurture these kids. So that's how we get feedback on the development. But I think it's really crucial to have a specific member in our team that would really provide input every time we create a version of Pic-A-Talk. So yeah, I think that's one of the roadblocks that we have.
Yeah, that came up in the final was that the pitch, right? Like I think I
Yeah.
forgot her name, the Kubo person. Um, Leslie? I'm not sure. I forgot. I forgot too. But that was your exact question, right? Do you
Yeah.
have anyone in your team that specialized in special education that would guide you and help you uh, with creating a product that's best, or at least meets the requirements for that, like from a special education standpoint? And so I think based on what you said, you're in the process of hiring or recruiting someone like that. Has that been difficult, or um, like I assume it's difficult just because you don't have funding just yet, or is that a contingency for you to receive funding?
Um, I think it's a bit difficult for us to find someone who would join our team, because mostly the people that I've found are pretty much busy with their jobs as well. Um, yeah, so I haven't actually found someone that was our age as well. I think my team members would prefer someone that we could actually vibe with to be in the team. So yeah, we're not actively looking, but we are still looking.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope you find someone soon. I assume what would work best would be someone who is also very passionate about what you're doing and is also either just a fresh grad or already graduate or is about to graduate, so that you can really grow with the company, right? Like that part makes a lot of sense. How do you deal with that? Like that comment about uh, and I don't know how often you get that comment, but the way I understood the comment that you got about how you're um, the CEO, and it sounds like they're saying that you're not qualified to be the CEO of this company. How do you deal with that, like from an emotional standpoint? And like how often do you get that, and how do you deal with that emotionally and move forward? I mean that has to kind of sting a little bit, right?
Yeah, I think it hurts less because I also understand. um, yeah, so the way that I think of it is, yeah, I think it's valid for them to think that way, because I also think that way, that maybe
Oh,
I shouldn't
okay.
be leading this. But my teammates have been really supportive. They would call me boss, or stuff like that. And
Madam.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, they've been very supportive, and they don't really doubt my ability, which is baffling to me because what, why? We went to school together. I'm not the leader type, and uh, yeah, but they've been supportive. They think that because I came up with the idea, because I have the sister, I'm the one who actually has the first-hand experience, is that they think that I'm capable of it. So yeah, I think my teammates have really helped me out in that aspect, like in how I've been doubting myself, and they've always encouraged me and reminded me that, oh look, we've won these pitch competitions. You're capable of this and stuff like that. So when I get those comments, I don't really take it as an insult. I take it as criticism that, oh, I'm lacking in this area. I don't really understand how a tech business works yet 100%. So yeah, I I really I'm not really quite hurt about those comments, because yeah, I do have a lot to learn. So yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
think I'm
I
done.
think that's I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's I think that's great that you're taking it in that way, because like I think there's a level of not caring that you need to have, where you don't take everything personally, and you don't um, always listen to what people say. But at the same time, depending on who's saying it, and you have to really be humble enough to accept criticism, and just take it as it is, and look for opportunities to build on the learnings or the improvement that you can get from those same criticisms, right? Because not everyone is humble enough to accept that, and sometimes, like especially those that see themselves as the leader, don't always respond well emotionally when criticism like that happens. So that's that's impressive, that for you to be as young as you are, to already have that level of maturity, to be able to handle that kind of stuff. So I can kind of see why, in that sense, your teammates would really follow you, just because you're um, humble in that sense. Yeah. Um, Still, it's gotta hurt. We're still human, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so, what steps do you then take, like as a CEO, when you hear that, and you know for a fact that there is some stuff that you still need to improve on? Like, are you in a position to be able to address those things that you're hearing from, like, mentors or other people that are saying that you need to learn this, you need to learn that? What is the process? And I mean, do you have an opportunity to work on those things? Meaning, do you have access to learning materials? Do you have access to the knowledge that you need to learn those things? And if not, what's the approach to improving yourself in that aspect?
Okay, so let's see. First of all, if I don't get the feedback that I need to get, pretty much I'd be thrown again into the pit of unknown, not knowing what to do next. So yeah, what would happen is I would wallow in self pity. So yeah, that's what happens. So I'm really thankful for the kind of criticisms that I get for whenever I'm pitching, or whenever there is a mentor that we get to talk to. uh, so yeah, for resources, you can mostly find tutorials online. Yeah, so they're readily available online, although some of them aren't free, but there are some content on YouTube that you could check out, and that's what I did for a while. And then I stopped because, again, wallowing in self pity. But yeah, I just think that you gotta remind yourself all the time that you have to always work hard into bettering yourself. But yeah, that's not easy to do. We're all still human.
Yeah.
Sometimes you forget the things that you need to do to improve. Sometimes you don't know what to do to improve yourselves. So yeah, I think it's great to have. I think it's very important to have like social interactions with other people. That way you get um, second opinions from what they see, and not just what you see as well. Because hey, maybe you could be pretty hard on yourself, and that's why you're not improving because you're already kicking yourself when you're actually doing better than you think. So yeah, I think socialization is really one thing, and also keeping yourself busy, like making sure that you're productive every day. Although I'm not doing that, but I would say that you have to be productive every day, because as someone who isn't always productive, I know how easily it makes you pretty lazy. It makes you think more inwards to yourself and kind of just killing your self-esteem a lot. So yeah, I'd say like the small things that to do, like hey, maybe sweep the floor every once in a while, do the laundry and stuff like that. Just keeping yourself busy, because if you just keep taking breaks, I think you kind of forget that you're in a break, that you're supposed to be doing something else. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And being a CEO is really kind of a heavy mantle, right? Like it's a heavy burden to bear. Just because all of the problems ultimately are yours, right? And the direction, whatever happens to the company, a month from now, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, all of that is also your responsibility. So how do you deal with that burden, like how emotionally, mentally, and on days where you feel like you don't want to carry that burden anymore? How do you drive yourself? How do you motivate yourself to maybe take a break but still keep going?
Yeah, I do think that the CEO title is so heavy to carry. I actually don't post it as much on social media. Like, if you can see on my Facebook, what it says there is just founder or managing director. I think at Pic-A-Talk, it's not really the word CEO, because I think like I don't deserve it. On LinkedIn, I just changed it yesterday to CEO/founder, but before it was just founder, because again, I don't feel like a CEO at the moment. And I feel like people have this false misconception that, oh, a CEO is this really rich
Really
person who,
glamorous job.
yeah, yeah, and it's really not. It's not a glamorous job, and I'm not rich by all means at the moment, because when you use the word CEO, like when you see it in the movies, it's like they're at this really high part of the building. Their office is in this top building, and then they come out and they look glamorous. They have this jewelry and they have this cool, amazing car. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's like the false misconception of what a CEO is. Because if you're a CEO of especially of an early stage startup, you basically have nothing. Yeah, so it's just pretty much you and your wits and your decision making skills. You don't really have all those glamorous things. So yeah, I think that that's why I don't post it as much on social media that I'm the CEO or the CEO of Pic-A-Talk, because I think I'm an embarrassment to the word CEO. Yeah, so
A little bit harsh.
yeah, because of that false misconception, and I don't want my batchmates to think that I'm this super rich person when I'm really not. I'm still thriving. um that's the thing about businesses, like you can't stop working on it, because once you stop, the production slows down. It all slows down. I mean, like, it's not an easy job to do, and unlike what you see in the movies, where they're just sitting there and like just delegating stuff to people.
Signing
It,
papers all day.
yeah, it's not that. You also have to think about what kind of tasks are you going to delegate, like what kind of things are priority for this week. Um, what kind of work should we be able to finish by the month? How can we improve these kinds of these features, like how do we approach investors, how do we approach partners in order to kind of work with us in order to for us to improve our application. It's a lot of that, and as someone who's pretty much introverted growing up, I don't really know how to approach people. I don't really know how to do the whole networking thing. So yeah, that's kind of one of the burdens of me for being a CEO, because you're expected to talk to people, you're expected to know a lot of people, you're expected to have a lot of connections. And unfortunately for me, all of my connections come from my connections as well. It's not really me putting myself out there and connecting with those people. Kind of like you. You're the one who connected with me first. I didn't really reach out to you. So yeah, I think that's something that I need to improve in myself, so that I can actually find the right partners for our company.
Yeah, I read somewhere that the CEO needs to be the biggest or the biggest salesperson of the company, right? You
Yeah.
have to sell your company. You have to be the biggest sales guy in the company. So especially for startups, that's and I'm honestly I'm an introvert myself. I grew up an introvert. Like when there's a party, I'm usually in just one of the corners, just observing everyone. I don't usually talk. So I've this podcast actually is a way for me to overcome that. So it's kind of helping me grow as well. So I get where you're coming from, where it goes against who you are as a person, that you have to kind of sell and network and make these connections. So with all of that, it gets really hard, right? Like you just want to sit down and maybe write code. I don't know, just start working with the stuff that you're familiar and comfortable doing. So just that personality aspect makes it even heavier, right? Like if you were a party person or like a natural, like an extrovert, then usually networking and all that stuff and selling and building relationships comes naturally. But because you're not, the burden kind of gets heavier where you have to learn that stuff. And at such a young age, it's a lot, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, a lot of people just tell me that networking is just basically, chika chika lang. It's just talking to people. Like, I don't talk to people. What are you talking about? I only talk to my friends.
yeah, so that makes it heavier. How do you keep going then with everything that you need to? What drives you? What keeps you motivated? What keeps you? What helps you wake up and still do the same thing and push forward and lead your team and all that stuff?
Number one is knowing what to do next. That really helps me get up in the morning and, just kind of planning what to do afterwards. And as for, wait, what was that again? Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
I know, because I guess there's so much to do, right? And it's so
Yeah.
hard, and you have to learn so much, and there's so many people relying on you. Like it feels like a lot of people would, in your situation, would just say, "Look, I just give up, right? Like I don't need to do this. I'll just get a job. I'll just continue working, just earn some money. Maybe I'll take it up after 10 years, right?" But you're obviously not doing that, right? You're still pushing forward. You're trying to keep the company, build the company, grow the company. So what motivates you to do all of that? Like where do you get the drive? Where do you get the motivation?
Yeah, mostly is I don't know. um, I also asked that my question. I also asked that question myself. Like, how do you keep the consistency? of always working and improving your company, always like going out there and selling your company to people who might believe in you.
Yeah, and this is
Yeah.
this is especially also relevant because it's after your 9 to 5 job. You have a 9 to 5 job and then you're running a company, right? So what it's hard. It's hard having a 9 to 5, but it's even harder when you have to stay awake after your 9 to 5 and keep working. So yeah, where does it come from? How do you keep going?
Yeah, I think mostly it's because as I said earlier, when you asked me if why not just stop going to school, I think it's more of I've already come this far. I've won a lot of these pitch competitions. Hell, I've been to Bali and Singapore because of this, and then I'm just gonna give up. So yeah, I think that's one of the motivators for me. Like the fact that this is already something that I've invested so much into, and I don't think it's worth giving up on. And also at the same time, this is kind of like God's calling to me. Sure. Because at the beginning of college, I actually started out in accounting
Oh.
because, yeah, and I hated it. I hated accounting. I went to class, but I didn't really study much. Every time my classmates would go to the library to study, I went to the computer stores to play games with my friends. So after that, I was advised to shift to a different course, and I actually didn't find any courses that would accept me because my grades weren't that great, and yeah, like the I wanted to be in marketing, but a lot of people were going to marketing, so they ran out of slots pretty quickly. To get into biology, you had to have this subject first, and I didn't have that subject. So there were a lot of closed doors for me at the time. And I was really desperate to get into a course because enrollment was almost ending. So then I found computer science, which I had no idea what it was all about at first. Like, what the heck is computer science? What am I going to do in this course? What kind of job am I going to get after this? And computer science is actually the smallest group of it has the smallest population in the
Least
entire
amount of
university.
students, yeah.
Yeah, because
Okay.
as they would say, like 50% of the class would shift after the first semester. So yeah, they say it's so difficult that only two people graduate every year. So that was nerve wracking to hear, but considering that it was the only course that was going to accept me, I was like, okay, I think I'm just gonna stay here for one semester and then shift again the next. But I didn't get to shift after that. I had to stay in computer science, although I had no clue what I was doing most of the time. And in my first 2 years, I think I didn't know because most of it I had only minor subjects. And then it's when I got the first major subject that I told you earlier that I actually found like a bright light in the tunnel. And
Oh, the musics and all
yeah,
the.
oh, I can actually create business in this field. Like there's actually something here for me. And yeah, I think it was all in God's plan that I would be kicked out of accounting, and then I just somehow find this very random course, and turns out it actually gave me a purpose in life. So yeah, I think that's one of the major motivators to why I'm still doing this until now, because I really think that this is something that I was born to do. So yeah, despite currently lacking some skills, I think over time I would be able to find those skills and improve myself, like slowly but surely. Like considering the introvertedness and the skill of talking to people, how I would usually do that is that when I actually do small talk with someone, I would tell to myself, okay, social interaction plus one, social skills plus one. That's good. That's good. Just continuously encourage.
You're giving yourself buffs. Is that
Yeah,
it?
yeah. Social skills plus one. Yeah.
Oh my
So that's
gosh.
pretty much it for my motivations and how I keep going so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that story because a lot of the things that happen for a reason, and maybe 80 to 90% of them are really not something we can control. I actually was listening to a podcast from I don't know if you listen to podcasts, but there's a podcast show. The title is "How I Built This" or "How We Built This," and I'm sure you've heard of Riot Games, League of Legends, right? I don't know if you play that. You do? You don't? Okay. So, so League of Legends, I think, is the biggest game or most expensive game or like the game with the most number of sales. And they started the whole free to play model, right? Where they make money off the skins and all the in app purchases, right? So anyway, the point of what I'm trying to say is that they became so successful, but when they were asked if their success, where would they attribute their success? Was it luck or hard work? Their answer was luck, because they had no coding background. They weren't engineers or computer scientists, and they were saying that there were so many variables that if one thing became this or if something else did not happen, like there were so many instances like that where something didn't happen the way it happened, like they would have failed right off the bat. Like the probability of success was so very low that they could never replicate it again. Which I guess the point is that sometimes you work hard and sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes both things happen, and you just have to go with the flow a lot of times, and then just find your purpose and your passion in life. Which I'm very inspired by what you're doing because it seems that you have found that where areas there's a lot of adults and like people my age or even older than me that at this point in their lives haven't really found their purpose yet, which is a little bit sad because once you find your purpose, I think it changes everything, right? Like it changes everything, the way you see life, the way you know your motivation changes, and the way you deal with problems changes as well because problems don't matter anymore when you know what your purpose is, right? Problems become things that just you just need to overcome and things that you can learn from. But they don't have that big of a toll anymore on your emotions, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. I'm kind of monologuing now, so I'll stop.
It's okay.
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions more. I guess my last two questions would be, and then we can wrap up. Do you have any regrets, like in everything that you've done so far? Like knowing what you know now, being who you are at this point in your life. If you could go back and change anything, was there anything that you would want to change? I mean, if there's nothing, then that's okay. But if there was something, maybe you can share what that would be.
Okay, I think that one thing that knowing what I know now, that you can actually go digital, you can actually collab with people digitally. I think I would have started that early on, so that production would not have been slowed down. Also, as well, the role of a CEO, because in the beginning I was kind of part of development, and I didn't really do stuff. I just told people, you know what, get take one task that you can find there in the list of tasks that I made, and just work on it. And I didn't really follow them up. And yeah, so when I got into different programs, and they kind of explained that if you're the CEO, you can't be part of the production. You have to be the one leading the production. So yeah, had I known that earlier on, like maybe a year earlier, I would have applied that as well. I would not have been part of creating the application. Instead, I would have been part of, I would have been the one leading them into producing it. Because so far, when I found out about it, so far we were able to create the MVP pretty quickly. So yeah, that sucks. Yeah, and also mostly it was on handling the business and selling it as well online, like through digital marketing. I don't have a marketing background, so it's really something that I'm still learning as I go. One thing that I do regret is also in the very beginning, I reached out to a lot of people, a lot of a lot of parents of special children worldwide, and I kind of lost a copy of those lists. So yeah, I regret
Oh.
losing that. Yeah, and now I'm trying to reach out to them again in the same Facebook group as well. And also, I kind of regret not having the same, consistent relationship with the people that I already reached out to. Because what I've done was I pretty much just made them answer a survey, and then I didn't speak for them for a year. So yeah, that's one thing that I also regret. And one thing that I learned during the entrepreneurship program is that you have to have a constant relationship with your potential, even just potential customers. You have to have that. You have to, make it personal. You have to befriend them personally, and then, just give them updates every now and then. And I pretty much didn't do that. So yeah, that's one thing I do regret. And then I hope I could still um, make amends for it. Maybe I can still catch up to those people that I already reached out to, and maybe still be able to connect with them on a more personal level instead of just a pretty much a business level. So yeah, those are the things that I would have changed. But I think considering that I didn't know better then, uh, I don't think it's 100% my fault. So yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds a lot like the things that you wish you could change are, part of the growing process, right? Part of growth pains as a young leader, a young CEO. And I think the key word there is that you're still very young. So at least you're able to learn those lessons as early as you did. Although I get you, I could have saved a lot of time, right? But you're still young. You have a lot more time ahead of you, and I'm sure there will be some more hard lessons coming in the future. So I think that should be okay. My last question is, for what advice would you give to anyone that's listening to this interview, this podcast right now, who is in a situation where they're at a crossroads, they want to do something, they want to change their lives for the better, maybe start a business, maybe start a podcast, maybe make a major decision that will have major implications in their lives, but they're hesitating. They don't know how to start. They don't know if they want to start, um, or what the next steps are. What advice would you give those people?
Mm, I would say, I know that people always say, just go for it 100%, so go all in. But I think that that's a wrong way. Personally, I think that's a wrong way of doing it, because there's a lot of risk on doing that. Like, you can't just let go of what you currently have and then completely risk it. That's such a huge gamble. So, what I would say, if you're not 100% sure that this is something that you can do, like for the rest of your life, or if this is something that can sustain you 100% if you start it, I would say, start small. People always say start big, think big, but I think you should start small but think big. Like your end goal should be huge, but also you have to take small steps at a time. Like you don't get to the top immediately. You always have to go through like this whole staircase, and it's always like a step by step process. So I think just take the first step, and then slowly go forward if it's really something that you want to do. As for what was the other one again?
No, that was perfect.
That was
Just some variation of that. Like if it's not a business, if it's a decision or something, then and they're not sure what to do, I guess it kind of applies the same way, right?
yeah, yeah. I think so too. And also, in terms of course, you're gonna hear people say that if if you trust God, then why can't you just risk it all? Like He's not gonna let anything bad happen to you. But also at the same time, you also have to work on it yourself. You can't just trust all of it to God. Like it's not like God's just gonna give it to you just because you have faith in Him. You also have to work for it, and you have to assess in yourself if you are capable of doing it as well, and not just let God do His thing. You have to also have a part in the process, and you have to make sure that you are up to that task before you actually risk everything and go for everything. So yeah, like I said earlier, start small but think big.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And um, like the way I see that happening is like if you have an idea, it's gonna be big, but you don't know how to start. Just start with, I guess, the smallest version, least expensive, least resource intensive version of your idea, and just as long as you get started, right? Like just get started, just do it and get started.
yeah, that's actually one of the things that they teach us in design thinking process. Like you don't have to have the most perfect application to start. You can have like the most simple thing that does the exact thing that you want to do, and then have people test it. Because after they test it, you can get feedback, and then you can improve your application again. It's like a process of growing. So if you have like this ugly prototype and you have people test it, over time you learn that what's wrong with the application and how do you make it beautiful in the long run. It's not something that happens immediately. It's something that really happens with time, and you do need people's opinions about it in order for you to improve on yourself, instead of just looking at something on your own, because not everyone has the same opinions, not everyone has the same experiences with these things. So you also kind of need to you also kind of need to ask people for guidance, ask people for help. So if you're like maybe you're like starting a business and you're not quite sure what to do, or what kind of risks you may have in front of you, you could ask people who have been through the business, been through this kind of industry themselves, since they've experienced it firsthand, and you might be able to avoid it. Because yeah, as you know, as they say, that experience is the best teacher. But also at the same time, I think you could learn from people who have already experienced it, so you don't have to get hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that.
agree. 100% agree. So Yuma, thank you so much for your time. You're really inspiring. You're very young, but you're building your dream, building your company, leading a bunch of people, and learning day in and day out. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for sharing your story, sharing your experiences, sharing your wisdom with not just me, but all of the people that are going to be listening to this podcast. Before we close, is there any way that the people listening right now could support you, support your company, either on social media or I think there's I forgot the website, Ko-Fi, right? That where we can Ko-Fi, yeah. So yeah, please let us know where we can support you so that those that get
Okay, so
inspired will, yeah.
so you can follow us on Facebook. We're Pic-A-Talk.ph. I think Pic-A-Talk_PH. I think on Facebook. We're also on Instagram and Twitter. Just search for Pic-A-Talk. Um, you can also help us in raising funds to continue with the development of Pic-A-Talk. We are on Coffee. It's ko-fi.com/Pic-A-Talk_PH. You can donate to us as low as $3, or that's pretty much 150 pesos. And also, you can, what else? We also have a website called Pic-A-Talk. You just search pic-a-talk.com, and you can learn more about our application and our story and how we started the application and our inspiration for the application as well. And also, you can kind of follow what we have been doing for the past 2 years now. And yeah, the Pic-A-Talk application is now actually available for testing on Google Play. So if you or anyone you know has a sibling or a family member or anyone you know really that has communication problems and they can easily identify words using pictures, you can contact me at yuma@picatalk.com. Send me an email or maybe message me on Facebook, and so we can kind of include you into the one of the testers for Pic-A-Talk. So yeah, I guess that's it.
Awesome. I'll include all of the links that you mentioned in the notes and the description, so that anyone that listens to this or watches this can also reference that. And I think what you're doing is really great. It will help a lot of people. So in that sense, I want to make sure that I support you as well. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that will also feel the same way. And hopefully you and your team are incredibly successful and are able to bring this all over the world, because it will definitely help a lot of people, a lot of children, a lot of kids, and anyone really that needs it. Yuma, thank you so much for joining the podcast. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.